Okay, second grade, if you remember correctly, last week we created our background paper and we did our snow. We actually painted our snow. So today we are actually going to be assembling our trees. We're going to make our little birch trees, and then we're going to add a shadow and we're going to glue them down, and we will add some snow just to give it more of a three-dimensional effect. Because remember, we did salt, which made a reaction with the watercolor to get those really pretty crystals. If you notice those really pretty little snowflakes in there. And then we're just going to go back with some white paint and we're going to add some big snowflakes. Just makes it more three-dimensional. So we're going to do some shadowed birch trees. So what we'll need today is scissors. We will need glue. We will need a black Sharpie, a gray crayon for the shadows. And we are going to be using white paint, and we are not going to be using the front of the paintbrush. We will be using the back of the paintbrush to create that snow look. So the very first thing we have to do is remember we have our paper. We have our blank paper. This is what we're going to be creating our trees on. So what you're going to do is you are simply going to take the paper, make sure it is hot dog style. I'm going to move this out of the way because I do not need that yet. We're going to make sure it's hot dog style, and I'm going to create 3 trees, just the trunks of the trees. Okay, no branches. We're just going to create three trees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to about here, and I'm going to kind of wiggle a line because trees are not perfect. So if you want it to look more realistic, don't just go straight up with that tree. You want it to kind of have some curve and some character. So I'll come to about here, and then I'm going to move over just a little bit, and I'm going to do another little curved line. So that's going to give me 3 trees. One on the outside, one in the middle, and one on the other side. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come to about right here, and I'm just going to kind of, you don't want to wiggle too much, but you don't want to go straight down. And trees actually get a little thinner up at the top. So if you want to make your tree a little bit skinnier at the top than at the bottom, that's okay too. So I'm going to come to about here. And I'm going to wiggle a line. And that is automatically going to give me 3 trees. 1, 2, 3. Now this is just a guide. When you start cutting and you want to shape your tree a different way, that is perfectly fine. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to create the detail on the trees before we cut them out. So we are going to actually be doing the birch tree bark. If you notice all of these little wiggle lines and dots, that's actually going to be like the bark of the tree, like the shadows of the bark. So what we're going to do is you're going to come on the edge of the tree, and you're just going to do like some wiggle lines. You could even do like some little curly cues or swirls. Do them in opposite directions. That's okay. And maybe I want a few little dark shadows in here. Now I'm not going to do just one side. I'm going to come to the other side and I'm going to do the same thing. Just a few. You don't want too many. And I'm going to do the same thing. You don't want this to be symmetrical. Trees are not symmetrical, but you do want to balance it out. So maybe I want some more little dark here. So don't forget to do both sides of your tree. I went from this direction, and I also went from the edge and went in that direction. I'm going to do the same thing with this tree. Little wiggle lines. Maybe I want to start with little wiggle lines. Then maybe I want to throw some little swirls, some little upside down swirls. Maybe I want some really dark spaces in here. Remember, you don't want it to look like a pattern. Okay, so I finished my patterns on my tree. Remember, you actually don't want it to be symmetrical. You just kind of want to throw them in, your little lines, your little squiggles. If you noticed, I mixed it up with like some little dashes, some upside down swirls, some swirls, and some wavy lines. And I did it on both sides of the trees. Make sure you do it on both sides. Okay, so now I am going to cut out my trees. And trees have some character. They're not just straight up and down, so you kind of want to wiggle it. Okay. And this one I'm probably going to turn upside down because see how it's a little bit bigger at the bottom than it is at the top, and that's okay. I can do that. I'm going to kind of thin this out some. And I don't want my edges straight on the side, so I'm going to just come in and just kind of curve, do some little wiggle lines in here. I do not want this tree perfect. I want it to be kind of wavy and curled with bumps. Again, I'm going to do my other edge piece. I'm just going to come up and I'm just going to cut. You don't want to cut it too thin. Just want to cut just a little bit off. Remember, trees get thinner as they go up to the top. Perfect. So now I've got these beautiful, beautiful birch trees. What you don't want to see is that. So that little white piece hanging off. And that's okay to go ahead and cut that marker off. You don't need to see that marker. If you need to cut that off, your little guide, that's okay. We don't have to see that. Okay. I think I'm happy with that. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm not done with my trees. I'm actually going to create a shadow on my trees. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to color half of the tree gray with a gray crayon. Okay, so a gray crayon. And I'm just going to take, I'm going to go ahead and do this just so I have a guide. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to color in gray on about half of the tree. This is going to be my beautiful shadow because if the sun was coming from the other side of these trees, you would not, this birch tree would not be perfectly white. It would actually have some shadow on about half of it. Now, making sure that I'm keeping my trees exactly how I want them because I don't want to accidentally turn it upside down. This is exactly how I'm going to be gluing my trees down. So I'm going to keep it exactly how I'm going to be gluing my trees down. This is important. The shadow has to, you've got to keep your shadow on the same side or it's going to look silly. All right. So now I'm done with my beautiful, beautiful birch trees. I'm going to put them right here over to the side. Now I'm going to get my paper. Now, I don't have another paper like this, so I'm just going to use one of my samples of what not to do with the watercolor and the salt. Remember, this made way too much of a reaction. This was a non-example, but I'm going to go ahead and use it for the birch trees. All right, so what we're going to do, you all remember you also got your snow. We're going to go ahead and cut this snow because we're going to create this horizon line of snow. So we're going to go ahead and cut it, and I want it kind of wavy. I don't want it all perfect and straight. Okay? I want it to look like little mounds of snow in the background. I could even make it really small on this side. I could even make it look like a hill of snow. That's okay. I can do it just like that. All right, you're going to glue your snow down. Okay, now I always glue my piece, never my paper. I always glue it on my piece because then I have more choice of where I want to lay it. Okay, so you don't need too much. You don't need gloppy glue coming out of your pieces. So don't use too much glue. And then you're going to press it down. All right, so now I'm going to place these trees on my snow. And I actually want some taller than the others. I actually want some of the snow to show down here so that I can do my shadow line. Okay, I want to be able to see the shadow. So I'm going to actually raise my little trees up. Maybe I want this one. I don't want a shadow here underneath him. Maybe he's so big. I think I'm going to put him here, but I'm going to raise these other ones up. Now, if you notice, they're coming off the page, right? Do you see how they're coming off the page? What I'm going to do is I'm going to place it where I want it, and I'm going to snip this off, but you want to make sure that it goes all the way to the tippy top of your page. Okay, you don't want it to do that. That's going to look silly. You don't want to do that. You want it to go all the way to the tippy top. And then this one's kind of big too, but I think I want this one raised maybe right here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that off, and now I've got my birch trees sitting in the snow. I have two of them sitting in the snow, and I have one that's going to go all the way. Since he's so big, I'm going to put him at the bottom of the page. Now, you don't have to do that. You can actually, if you wanted to put all three up here, you could in different positions. Okay, and then you're going to glue your trees down. So notice how when I glued my trees down, I made sure that they went up to the tippy top. I don't care what they do down here. That's okay. They're sitting in snow. And you also do not have to place them perfectly. You can actually tilt them a little. Sometimes trees are a little slanted, and that's okay. So you can slant them a little bit. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create this shadow. Like the sun is coming from the front of the trees, and we're just going to create the shadow. And if you notice, these lines are kind of slanted back. The shadow, that it looks like maybe the sun is, you know, way over here on the other side of the tree, and it's going to create the shadow. It's not going to come straight forward. We're actually going to slant it back. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your gray crayon, and I don't need to worry about a shadow here because I put this tree down at the bottom. But if you have a tree up here, you want to create a shadow for all three of your trees. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come to this edge of this tree, and I'm just going to pull this back till it comes off of the page. I'm going to slant it back, and I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to slant that back. Again, I'm going to come to the edge and slant. I'm going to come to the edge of the tree, and I'm going to slant. And then I'm going to just very simply color it in. Now, if you have three that you need shadows for, you will do that 3 times. If you notice with my trees, I actually have 3 shadows. So if you made the choice to have 3 trees up in the snow that need shadows, then you will do that with 3. All right, so now we have this beautiful, beautiful winter scene, and we're not done. We're going to create that snow by using white paint, and we're going to take the tip of our brush upside down. We're going to dip it in the snow, and we're just going to randomly place these big dots of snow. Just kind of randomly. You don't have to do it on the trees themselves. You just want to kind of go around. Just a few. You don't need too many. Make sure you get some on the edge of the page. It makes it look more realistic, like it's coming from the edge of the page. And voila, you are done with your beautiful birch tree winter scene. You will put this on the drying rack when you are done. We'll have to put it on the drying rack because of the snowflakes. You will get these back next week. Have fun.